my little countdown. No, it's just going to start recording. Okay, so now I look like an idiot on YouTube. Not very hard. Okay, so I want to share this too. And I'm trying to think about my juniors. I think about you guys all the time, but my juniors tend to get undercut in some ways. Okay. So, we're starting with reading time. I want to give you a little bit of reading time. Forgot that I wanted to do that. So let me give you a little bit of reading time. Hopefully you're in the right place, right around page 100. Some of you may have just kind of plowed through, and that's totally okay. In the mean, I mean, if you're where I'm hoping for us to be for next week, approximately 154. Go ahead and go back through and figure out, what are the moments that you want to kind of ask after. What do you want to talk about? And we're going to take a look at questions in about, and let's make it 15 minutes today rather than 20. So about 9:15. Okay. But not that didn't happen to you, but so you can relate to this stuff. All right. And so, what has Felix gone through? Lost his wife, lost his baby daughter, lost his job, and felt like he had to move. I just have to move. I've got to get out of here. And certainly that was the position that I found myself in after that breakup. I'd been dating the girl for 7 years, and that was the place that I knew. And even though she had moved away, I was like, I have to get out of here. I can't stay here anymore. It'll kill me. It'll kill me. Not that the places that I could afford to live were doing me much good. I was essentially living in a lot of places like where Felix is. I didn't have an outhouse. I had a bathroom with plumbing and all that. But the last apartment that I lived in had like wasp nests in like weird secret corners in the house, and I was like, no, this is no good. This is I gotta get out of this place. So that's where our complexity is in terms of the character. Who is this guy? In terms of our title, Hag-Seed, that is a pejorative term that not Felix, that Prospero uses in The Tempest to refer to Caliban. Caliban is the only native being, humanoid figure on the island that Prospero finds himself at, and he refers to him as Hag-Seed. He is the product of, Caliban is the product of a witch. So he's the child of a witch, and so Hag-Seed. Is Hag-Seed a retold version of The Tempest with Felix remaking The Tempest inside the story? And ultimately, yes, that's exactly what we have going on. So when Felix takes on the name of Mr. Duke, the character of Prospero in The Tempest is a duke who's been banished from the world that he lives in by his own brother, and banished completely, not specifically to this island. They're just, he and his daughter are shipped out on this boat, and good luck. And so we get a similar kind of thing. And so what we're getting largely inside of Hag-Seed is kind of Atwood's, how would we describe that? Her explanation of kind of the thinking that Prospero might have been struggling through up to the moment that the play opens at. I don't want to spoil it. Up to the moment of probably March something in here, the actual production of the show. I want to say it's like so February is rehearsal, March approaching. Was it 13th? Oh, and that, yeah, ironically, that was Isn't that interesting? Yeah, March 13th was our last day face to face without wearing masks and all that. And then, did everyone else working in the theater know about Tony's decision to fire Felix? It certainly feels that way. It would be unsurprising for that to be the case. Maybe some people were surprised. Um, certainly by the end of the day, lots of people would have known. So Tony, the board members, and the security guards, but probably almost immediately, Tony would have put word out that uh, Felix is pursuing other options. Chapters 1, 9, and 10, given the date Monday, January 7th. Chapter, 11 to 13 says the same day. On 14, the date changes. Significance to these dates, and ultimately, it's just kind of putting us in place. Those specific dates, no, but it's showing us kind of the progression. In terms of the leaps of time, I mean that's the idea of the leaps in time is. Have any of you read Slaughterhouse-Five? No Slaughterhouse-Five. Anybody at home read Slaughterhouse-Five? Yeah. So that idea of leaping in time, right? That Billy Pilgrim becomes unstuck in time is related to his PTSD from war, right? So when we suffer these complex traumas, part of it is that there is a reliving of those experiences over and over and over again. There's a spiraling that can happen that we get stuck in until we're able to kind of free ourselves. And so I think that is certainly playing a part in terms of the leaps in time and the jumping in time. Sometimes we can lose a long span of time. Same thing happens in the Tempest ultimately. So that one that we when we enter the Tempest, Prospero and his daughter Miranda have been on the island for 12 years. And he explains to his daughter in probably one of the longest and what has been described as one of potentially the most boring speeches because Miranda herself kind of falls asleep as he's telling her this story. But it's Prospero. Prospero explains to her who he really is. And there's been this so all this time that they've been on the island, she does not have a sense that he's any kind of royalty or that she would consequently be. So that brings us to these complex issues. Does he have schizophrenia? And I assume that is a consequence of the Miranda. Was there a small girl listening to him? No, not really, but it was soothing to think that there was. And just this specter of Miranda herself. It's the most probably the earliest striking moment because up to this moment it's probably we imagine that it's just his imagination, but there's a weird shift that happens on page 61. And he's getting ready to go to the correctional institute. He's getting dressed, and he's thinking about the guys at the prison. And so we've got this gap in the page, and he says, "I'm not doing it for the money." Felix says out loud. He turns. Miranda's sitting at the table, and you're like, "What? What? No, she's not. She's not sitting. Is she? Is she sitting at the table? Is she not sitting at the table? I don't understand what's happening here." A little pensively, because she won't be seeing much of him now that it's January and the spring semester is about to begin. "I never did." Miranda nods, because she knows that to be true. Noble people don't do things for the money. They simply have money, and that's what allows them to be noble. They don't really have to think about it much. They sprout benevolent acts, the way trees sprout leaves. And Felix, in the eyes of Miranda, is noble. It helps him to know that. Miranda's 15 now, a lovely girl, all grown up from the cherub on the swing, who's still enclosed in her silver frame beside his bedside. So that is kind of our clue. She's still enclosed in her silver frame beside his bedside. This 15-year-old version is slender and kind, though a little pale. She needs to get out more, run around in the fields and woods the way she used to, bring some roses to her. Of course, it's winter, there's snow, but that never used to bother her. She could skim above the drifts, light as a bird, and so therefore not leave any kind of tracks. Miranda doesn't like it when he's away so much during the months when he's giving the course. Also, she frets. She doesn't want him to wear himself out. When he gets back after a heavy day, they share a cup of tea together, play a game of chess, then eat some macaroni and cheese and maybe a salad. Miranda has become more health conscious. She's insisting on greenery. She's making him eat kale. When he was growing up, no one had ever heard of kale. If she'd lived, she would have been at the awkward teenager stage, making dismissive comments, rolling her eyes at him, dyeing her hair, tattooing her arms, hanging out in bars, or worse. So let's, take it to the extreme. He's heard the stories, but none of that has happened. She remains simple. She remains innocent. She's such a comfort. But lately, she's been brooding about something. What is it that Miranda would be brooding about? Has she fallen in love? He certainly hopes not. Anyway, who would she fall in love with? That log toting lout of a Walter is long gone, and there's nobody else around. Be good till I come back, he tells her. She smiles wanly. What else can she be but good? You can do some embroidery, she frowns at that. He's stereotyping. Sorry. Okay, some higher math. That gets a laugh out of her at any rate. She won't stray from the house. He knows that. She can't stray far. Something constrains her. Something, as if he doesn't know. So there's an oddness, certainly, in terms of that. And so, one of the things that we'll be exploring when we get to the Tempest is that there's a sprite on the island that assists Prospero, that Prospero frees. And that sprite actually was locked into a prison for 12 years. And so the idea of imprisonment is an important one, both for Hag-Seed, but also for the Tempest. And in terms of Hag-Seed, we've got Felix working at the prison, and so obviously there's a prison there. But to what degree has Felix imprisoned himself for the past 12 years? Because he's struggling so hard with this other stuff. With Spirit Miranda, both Felix pretend that Miranda's alive, read books to her, have conversations with her. So I think we're beginning to get at this, the answer to this question. Painful reminder of her death, the guilt, perhaps, that he feels because it wasn't be there. I shudder to imagine what could have happened. I was in a play, and I came home from a cast party one night, and my garage door was wide open, the lights were on in the garage, and then the lights were on all throughout the house. And this was a time before, like, really reliable cell phones. I had a cell phone, and I quickly checked it, and discovered that my wife had sent me a voicemail years ago. She had taken our daughter to the hospital. Our daughter was 1 year old. She had just been thrown up all over the place, and previous to that, she was kind of generally snotty and so on and so forth. In fact, I don't think she was even a year old, if I'm remembering. We might have just been a few weeks shy of her first birthday. And she had a virus that infants often get, and that is pretty deadly. She was in the hospital for a week. It was a very scary time. Ended up developing pneumonia from the virus. Just, really, really sketchy. I can't, that things happen that are beyond our control. we feel guilt for them, even though there's absolutely nothing that we could have done. Disruptive sorts of moments. In fact, I think I marked it. Or a reference to that idea. A little earlier. We can see an example of how it happens too. One was 58, top of 59. The course was offered from January to March during the months he was ran on my octane. But in the summer and fall, when he was back in his tunnel full time, he reverted to despondence. So when you're stuck in your own head, that's when things go wrong. Especially when you feel guilty. So it's, yeah, I think it's about the guilt. It's not so. Yes, I think he's trying to get spirit like this out. He's also, I think, trying to give himself a fatherhood that he lost. In terms of the reading of the story. I just recently found out that my 8th grader is reading Private Prey. And she was named after Private Prey. And I was a little disappointed that she started it without me because I would love to be reading to her. And part of the reason is because I recognize it's because she's in 8th grade and my fatherhood is transitioning. It's changing. It's totally changing. My baby girl is away at college and certainly can't read her anymore. My son's just, around the living space. There aren't any more times. No offense. I'm not saying all boys. Yeah, sometimes we do. It's not true. So I think that really addresses all these questions about Miranda. Is that fair to say? Or was a built Miranda his whole job? So that's the question for how's this going to end, right? Will he be able to do that? What's going to allow him to move forward? Is it this production of Felix, or is that going to destroy him? What will happen? Does Felix need Miranda's presence to be functional and mentally stable? Is it a bad thing for him to sacrifice truth for happiness, to live in this fictional world? What do we say? How do you respond? Do you have any thoughts on that? Miranda is the reason Felix is here. And he's had, those moments where he's happy. As do the prisoners. So going to the Flexible Institute, that gives him a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. So you think if Felix needs Miranda's presence, he functional and mentally stable. Is it a bad thing for him to sacrifice truth for him? To, speak to her, turn around and have her be sitting there. How weird. Is it bad?
I think the thing is he can't live in this fantasy forever. So something's gonna have to realize it's true. So why not? It's gonna have to do
Very last sentence. And actually those last two paragraphs kind of get that as well. Felix.
Hey, who are you fooling? That means to an end, he would reply. There's a goal inside. What goal? He would respond. So of course he's talking. But he's not talking about anything. He's talking to himself. Surely there was one. Surely there was a goal. An unopened box hidden somewhere under a rock marked E for vengeance. Is that the goal? Is it vengeance? That's the goal? He didn't see clearly where he was going, but he had to trust that he was going somewhere. And there I think we've got that big deal on. And maybe the only difference. I can't go where the signs point, but I've got to keep going. Or I can go where the signs point, even though it's not the direction that I want to go. Life steps almost straight. Our lives are disrupted in tremendous ways. Somebody that is as if someone has shut out the lights. And so how do we move forward under those circumstances? You can stay there frozen in the dark, or you've got to be brave and take a step and risk hitting your head on the tree limb. And eventually your eyes adjust. And you can almost see. It's almost as good. So is he going to be able to have that? And that's this last one, what about his dead wife? She doesn't get to be a spirit. So what is happening there? Why there's no Nadia? There's no Nadia, which means hope. Why isn't there a Nadia? Doesn't that make sense? It is just Prospero and Miranda on the island. He is a widower. We don't get a lot of information about it. And that's a Shakespeare thing. We don't get a lot of information on the missing mom. Lots of fathers and daughters, but not a lot about the missing mom. What happened? Died of childbirth, like an onion. I don't know, many of you are, I can't imagine that any of you are familiar with the TV show Man. It aired in the mid to late 1990s. It had Paul Reiser in it, who played the scientist in season 2 of Stranger Things. And his wife was Helen Hunt, who was won an Academy Award for, what that movie was. So I'm going to forget that. And she was in Twister. And so they played a married couple, and the premise of the show was to look at, what a married couple looks like through the newlywed phase into marriage. And then as TV shows were kind of coming back after having been away for a long period of time, Will and Grace, Roseanne, and a handful, a couple of others, and they were looking at reunion specials and so on and so forth. The two of them got together last year and said, let's come back and take a look at where this couple is now. And so how do we kind of revisit them? And it was through the lens of their daughter having moved out of the house. And so who are we now as a couple, now that everything that has informed us to this point, and this is something your parents probably go through, especially if you're the baby, you're going to be the last one. Who are we now? We now need to figure out who each of us are under the circumstances that this being that has come to define us for the past 17 or 18 years is now gone. So who are we? And then they aired a clip in an interview almost exactly a year ago. The only reason I came up through a previous agenda, so I was kind of looking at whereabouts should we be, and so I actually played this, but it's impossible to find. The clip is the wife is the husband, and they're kind of talking about their mutual sadness. And the wife says, "She's the love of my life," and he says, "I know." And so they have this mutual agreement that their child is the love of their life, not the child, but the child. And think about the child as a physical manifestation of their love for one another, the total and complete blending of the two, of their total love for one another, that now becomes this being. And so I think that plays a big part into why we don't have not. He had less time with Nadia probably than he did with Miranda. He had Miranda for 3 years. And as he expressed that they got married quickly. And I think less than a year after their marriage, died. One more moment is to the bottom, these questions that we're asking, this is, what we're doing. This is the idea behind the analysis of this particular text. It seems really easy.
Next in the curriculum came an in-depth study of the main characters explored in class one by one. I mean, and we only have one main character, it's Felix. What made them tick? What did they want? What did they do? Why did they do what they did? Hot debates would take place. Alternate versions would be proposed. Was Macbeth a psycho or what? Is Felix schizophrenic or what? Was Lady Macbeth always bonkers, or did she go that way out of guilt? Was Richard III a stone cold killer by nature, or was he a product of his times and his totally depraved extended family where you had to be killed? So that's total extreme. But that's what we're looking at. That's how we've got to go about analyzing the text and the characters. Okay. Any other questions that you're asking? We don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to give you a little bit of time to hopefully do a little bit of research. Yeah.
So going past like reading 100
Mhm.
is when we started to see that like each chapter was the same day or it was just increased by one day.
Mhm.
So is there significance to the fact that there's all these jumps in time and then like it slows down as if he's almost like freeing himself from being able to just replay the events over and over? Is it jump?
Well, so I think a big part of the jump is that he's now finally getting to do the show that he was supposed to do. That last, yeah, it was in his grasp. He was, that was going to be the way that he was going to try to free himself initially. And so now, is that what this means? Is that what we're moving to? And I think our lives work that way a lot, just in general. That that you can blink and all of a sudden you're a senior in high school. And so even though, believe it or not, even in our current circumstances, you're going to again blink and it's going to be graduation and we're done and you'll be out of here. But at the same time, there's still the tedium of the day to day to get to that point. And so I think that plays a part in kind of what we have happened. What else? Other questions? Mhm. Maybe. I really don't know. So there's this interview with Margaret Atwood where she's very cagey. And you know, she has every right to be that way. It's kind of like the William Faulkner interview that we read back when we did A Rose for Emily, where he said, you know, that wasn't my intention, but you know, whatever it is. And so she was asked specifically about the title, why Hag-Seed, and she said, well, I have a very specific reason, but I'm not going to tell you. And so, in terms of what that very specific reason is, I have no idea, and I've still not quite figured it out. And I don't expect that I ever will. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good question. What else? Yeah.
Are we not supposed to? He said, it was just in the reading time. He said that no one will be hurt. Like no one will be hurt, but in situations like the actors could get carried away, could get hurt.
Right. So, if you recall, and you did read the prologue of the screening, on page 5, shots are fired, and then there are 3 more shots. And so, what is going to happen here? But I don't spoil that. What's going to happen? Other questions? Who's enjoying it at the very least? Who's enjoying the book? Okay. All right. Well, good. Then, just about like 15 minutes left. Actually, a little less than that now that I look at it. And what I'd like to do is just give you a few minutes to look into finding sources for sure. Give you a few minutes to look into sources for your annotated bibliographies. If you've already found them and you're comfortable with those, if you want to ask me about them, you're welcome to. If you're having trouble finding anything, certainly let me know. In terms of the creation of the bibliography, certainly let me know. All right. So I'm going to just give you some time to do that.